Got a viewer suggestion here from Franny P. Thank you very much, by the way. We got some more Thom Hartmann. He's amongst my favorite political commentators. I'm going to throw this at you. In my opinion, Sam Cedar's the GOAT. But if Cedar's not on, Hartmann's a close second because some of his work's fantastic. Let's have a look at Thom Hartmann reflecting on his travels to Germany in the 80s and his talk with former Nazis, because he has some opinions about how America's shaping up these days that I think is probably good for us to have a serious look at.
Past the hour, and when I was living in Germany back in the 80s, I had I mentioned this yesterday, I knew a number of people who were Nazis or who were ex-Nazis, who had been Nazis. I knew one guy who still was a Nazi, but everybody else I knew was a repentant ex-Nazi.
I did not realize he hung out with Trump in Germany in the 80s.
And one of the things that I learned was that in the 1930s, this was something Hitler put into place in 1934 or 35. The radio stations and the newspapers had special sections. The stations had special times of the day, and the newspapers had special sections in the paper where you could call up or you could write a letter to the editor to denounce your neighbors, to say that they were not patriotic Germans, and name them and give their addresses. Now, this was a fairly common occurrence. And then those people who were named would then be harassed by their neighbors. They'd be harassed by the police. Depending on what was being claimed, they could even be arrested. And, later it became, oh, this person's a secret Jew, or this person's really, they pretend to be a patriotic German, but they're really a trade unionist or a socialist or whatever.
Just to be real clear, so he's saying it started with bullying. Just kind of being an asshole, trying to get the other side, trying to rile them up, trying to make their lives harder, trying to harass. That is how the Nazis got started. If you find that everybody outside of your group treats your group like it's bad, it doesn't necessarily mean you're in a bad group. It doesn't. But you should consider it. If you've never considered whether you're the bad guy, start right now. I've done tons of bad things. I'm sure I've been the bad guy in somebody's story for an extended period. And if that ever happened, I'm sorry. But I can hold my head high because I've genuinely tried to be a decent person. So have most people. Part of that equation is not putting your head down and charging ahead with what you consider to be the right course of action at all times. It is, in fact, to periodically stop and ask yourself if you are playing for the right team. Give it some thought. Let's let Thom Hartmann bring her home.
So, this idea of turning in your neighbors has a long and deep history in fascist states. I say that as a predicate to what is happening in Missouri right now. The Attorney General of Missouri has launched a new anti-trans campaign. There is a form from the Attorney General's office, Andrew Bailey, the Missouri Attorney General, and it's home/file a complaint/transgender care concerns. And the form is called the Transgender Center Concerns Form. And you fill it out. You complete this form to submit a complaint or concern about gender transition intervention you have experienced or observed in Missouri. The Attorney General is not a private attorney, but enforces the laws of the state of Missouri as written. By submitting this form, you agree that you may be contacted by the Attorney General's office about the facts stated in this complaint or concern. Please complete this form in as much detail as possible. And then, the form has all the spaces for, all the details, right? And you don't even have to be a citizen of Missouri. There's a place in there where you can fill in what state you're from. So anybody in the United States can start turning in people who live in Missouri for being trans or for dressing up as women. How long before it really goes ugly? Frankly, I don't think very long.
Wouldn't it be interesting? Wouldn't it be interesting if some mischievous internet hoodlum would have put the link to the Missouri Attorney General in the description? Wouldn't it be fun if tomorrow morning Missouri Attorney General cracks open their emails and has a look at their little trans hate list, and instead of getting a bunch of Americans reporting on other Americans who they suspect are trans, instead of that, they have an inbox full of messages calling them a see you next Tuesday for being a bigot. Well, just such a link happens to be in the description of this video. If you got nothing else going on tonight, now is a great time to send the Missouri Attorney General a little note telling that person what you think of them and telling them what you think of this anti-trans bigotry. Hell, you can send them a link to this stream. You can send them a link to the Thom Hartmann program. That's only 3 minutes. He's got to watch that. But regardless, flood that inbox, would be my recommendation, with some facts. Like, you can't stand this person if that's the case. Or you will never, ever support them in a national campaign if they ever choose to run for anything. Let them know that they're seen and that, son of a gun, you found the culprit. It's you, Missouri Attorney General. You're the one that needs reporting. Just make their day worse, because they earned it. And if you've got friends who are starting to go down the right-wing rabbit hole, I definitely recommend that clip from Thom Hartmann. Show them that. No one is going to be able to say it better than Thom Hartmann just did. He literally talked to people who were Nazis, who pointed out what the playbook looks like. It looks like this. And finally, to make sure we don't have Nazis in the future, check your local school board. Keep up with them and make sure they're not removing books. Remember, Republicans need dummies to vote for them. They require idiots to fall for grifts. They require ignorance. So it should be our top priority to make sure they don't get away with making our children ignorant. That's where Republicans come from.